The idea of haunted houses dominates Hollywood movies, often presenting them in various creative ways that push the limits of the imagination. However, many viewers believe these stories are entirely fictional, which isn't always the case. Many haunted house films are inspired by real stories, or at least, stories that the original owners believe to be true. One such story is that of Mrs. Meg Lyons' house. Mrs. Bakersfield recounts the tale of the house. Mrs. Meg Lyons was an elderly woman living alone in her carefully designed home in California. She lived and died in solitude. For a long period, the house remained untouched until November 1981, when a woman named Mrs. Frances Freeborn purchased it. Everything inside was as Mrs. Lyons had left it, but since the house was old, Mrs. Freeborn decided to redesign it to suit her own tastes. And that's when the problems began. As she began the renovations, Mrs. Freeborn started hearing loud noises from the kitchen. Initially, she thought they were due to the old plumbing. She was accustomed to closing all doors, windows, and cabinets before going to bed, but from the moment she began redecorating, she would wake up to find windows and doors wide open. Mrs. Freeborn also noticed that when she turned off all the lights before leaving the house, she would return to find them all switched on. Initially, she dismissed these events, thinking she might have forgotten to turn off the lights and close the windows. The incident that convinced her of some supernatural presence occurred when she tried to hang a painting of three women from the pre-Civil War era. She found the painting on the floor, neatly propped against the wall each morning.